Afternoon, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand, if you are able to, as we welcome our 2019 Honored Citizen, Di Clymer. Please remain standing for our, for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Good afternoon. My name is John Arena, and on behalf of the Public Ceremonies and Celebrations Committee and the Town of Concord, welcome to the 2019 Honored Citizen Ceremony. Each year since 1962, Concord has acknowledged the outstanding efforts of some very dedicated citizens by naming them Concord's Honored Citizen. We come together today to recognize Di Clymer, our Honored Citizen for 2019. I'm pleased to introduce the Reverend Howard Dana, Senior Minister of First Parish in Concord, who will now offer the invocation.
Will you pray with me, please? God of many names and many peoples, we have gathered this afternoon to give thanks for Di Clymer and her work. We have gathered here in a town that has long valued volunteerism and a can-do spirit, a town that nurtures its citizens and nurtures those who come here and nurtures the towns around it as well. We are grateful for Di and all that she has done for our town, the ways that she has been gracious and kind, has been brave and true, the small things she has done as well as the large things. She is an inspiration to us that each of us might in our own way reach out to our fellow citizens and our neighbors to be good citizens of a town or a state or a nation, to not forget the least among us, the poor, the incarcerated, those who struggle with whatever type of illness or addiction. Remind us always that we are your people, O God, and that we can show your love the best by showing it to one another. Thank you for Di Clymer. Thank you for all of the lives that she has touched. May she know our gratitude, and may she feel deep peace and deep satisfaction this day. In the name of all of those who have lighted the path that we now walk, we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Well, I recently had a chance to sit down with Di at the town hall, and during our conversation, I was struck by the early roots of what has turned into an incredible, long-standing period of steadfast volunteerism and town service. In the 1960s, while a newer resident of town and member of First Parish, Di joined the Social Action Committee, which began her outreach to the Concord prison. Apart from being the name of the committee, the words social action and responsibility stood out to me most about her. Early requests that Di fulfilled and others fulfilled included making new curtains for the infirmary, decorations for the prison's dining hall during the holidays, and preparing orientation books. These early actions led Di to apply and serve as the coordinator for the prison task force, which later gained the name Concord Prison Outreach, where she assisted in the building up of nearly 150 volunteers for educational programs at the prison. As Di mentioned to me, the most exciting thing about being involved with Concord Prison Outreach and organizing others to volunteer was not about what was necessarily done for the inmates, but about spreading hope. It was not about a group of people coming in to teach inmates, but rather a group of community members to be with inmates. Di helped attract volunteers who came in ready to help inmates, but ended up receiving an amazing connection with people they never expected to form relationships with, and in many ways, reconnecting people with their own humanity. Needless to say, Di has had a hand in bringing people together for the better. Concord Prison Outreach led her to be one of the initiators for Communities of Restorative Justice, a program that has spread exponentially to other communities. And her work certainly did not stop there. She was involved with Y2K, a town initiative for forming Concord neighborhood connections. She met with then Concord Police Chief Len Weatherby, and while drawing separate circles on a large town map, actually the map that she brought today, they identified 108 neighborhoods in Concord. And the goal of Y2K was to have a designated contact person to keep track of certain assets and liabilities in every neighborhood in case of an emergency. Thus, once again, exhibiting her drive for social action, responsibility, and commitment to bring people and neighborhoods together. She has proved to be an active volunteer and civic contributor in many capacities, including the Concord Free Public Library, Concord League of Women Voters, Concord Historic Districts Commission, Concord Art Association, and the Concord Cultural Council. Di has served on the Board of Trustees at Neshoba Brooks School, has been involved with the Concord Umbrellas Advisory Board, and even helped organize a surprise appreciation event for Concord postal workers. For over 50 years, Di and her husband Jack have resided here, where they raised 2 children, Amy and Sarah, and they now enjoy their 4 grandchildren. Di mentioned that what she admires most about our town is its remarkable energy, and smiled as she described how proud she feels to call Concord her home. So, as we honor Di today, we thank her for her many actions of kindness, fundraising, and volunteerism, while embodying a meaningful and inspiring message to never forget that we have a social responsibility for each other and for the betterment of our community. In closing, I'd like to share a quote from one of the many nomination letters received from fellow Concordians. As I have gathered information for this nomination, I have talked to many Concord residents who have worked with Di over the years. She is held in the highest regard by all who've been privileged to work with her. She is a positive role model, an example of the impact one person working with many others can have. Di Clymer is a most deserving individual for the 2019 Honored Citizen of Concord Award. And with that, Di, I'd like to present you with the town citation. The certificate is awarded to Di Clymer by the town of Concord in recognition of the selfless work she has done for the betterment of our community and its inhabitants. Signed by the Public Ceremonies and Celebrations Committee, John Arena, Aaron Logan, Jalissica Navarro, Robert Norton, Tom Valley, and Trish Eng. Congratulations. Tom McCain, Chair of the Select Board, will now say a few words and present our honored citizen with a special gift.
Thank you, John, and thank you all for coming this afternoon to recognize the 2019 Honored Citizen of Concord. It's a beautiful afternoon, and this event has always been one of my favorite. I want to thank John and all the members of the Public Ceremonies Committee for all their hard work throughout the year and for organizing this event. Each year, I'm humbled when I learn of the contributions of the person selected as our honored citizen. Concord's fortunate to have a culture of civic engagement and volunteer service, and this year's honored citizen is remarkable not only for the longevity of her service, but the positive results that have been achieved by her efforts. And with that, we have, I believe it's right here, a clock.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
I will read a little bit about it, if I might. It says, this clock is made from a black walnut tree that thrived in the marshy farmland of Concord for over 400 years. By the time it was felled by a hurricane in 1991, it had grown to be the largest black walnut tree east of the Mississippi, with a leaf and shade canopy covering nearly an acre. As with so much in Concord, the tree has an interesting historical context. The farm encompassing the tree was set out within a few decades of the town's establishment in 1635. In 1729, one of the family members built his home near the tree, siting the house with a view of the tree and not, as was the custom, facing the road. This was a family of well-known master builders who over the next 100 years built some of the best local houses. During the tumultuous spring of 1775, the tree's owner was a Concord Minuteman, undoubtedly holding meetings under the shelter of the tree, and when the time came, marching from there to a major role in the Battle of the North Bridge. Only a tree of this type and age could have had this color, grain, figure density, and organic beauty. It is the local craftsman's goal to create the object with the design and purpose that takes place in your environment and enjoyment of the woods and the history. Congratulations.
Now, Senator Michael Barrow will come forward to present the State Senate citation.
Thank you very much. I feel a special identification with Di's work around those who have been incarcerated. I've worked on criminal justice issues during my time in the state Senate, and my wife works for the Committee for Public Counsel Services, the state's public defender agency, doing constitutional appeals. So I take very seriously the incredible effort that a number of folks in Concord have put forward to help those who have spent time in the Concord Reformatory, organized for years by Di. This work, this effort takes incredible patience, as you can all imagine. You really have to draw, you have to be motivated by a well of decency within you, and to take responsibility, as Di did, for putting the program of outreach to prisoners, making sure the library was stocked, making sure that there were courses on life skills as well as vocational ones, assuming that essentially everyone was going to get out again and needed to be helped as they resumed their lives on the outside. Assuming responsibility for this kind of activity, as Di did, took an enormous amount of focus. But it wasn't just to be kind. The results of Di's efforts and the results of years in this town reaching out to prisoners really did change lives. There was no endless cycle of helplessness or hopelessness for everyone who spent time there. They benefited from the sorts of efforts that Dee extended. We have an example, because he wrote his biography, his autobiography. We have an example of a young man who spent time here in Concord in the late 1940s, a young African-American by the name of Malcolm Little, who reflected on the way he had turned his life around, first in the Charlestown jail, then here in Concord, and then at the Norfolk County House of Correction. He changed his name legally to Malcolm X, And he wrote about the encounters that he had had with folks in Concord and people in Dedham and what it had meant to him in the autobiography of Malcolm X. He wrote of his time in the prison library, "Many who today hear me somewhere in prison or in person or on television, or those who read something I've said, may think that I went to school far beyond the 8th grade. This impression is due entirely to my prison studies." And he concludes, after detailing how he improved himself right here in town, he concluded with, I'm going to get to what he concluded with. Right here. He wrote, "I knew right there in prison that reading had changed forever the course of my life. As I see it today, the ability to read awoke inside me some long dormant craving to be mentally alive. I certainly wasn't seeking my degree the way a college confers a status symbol upon its students. My homemade education gave me, with every additional book that I read, a little more sensitivity to the deafness, dumbness, and blindness that was afflicting the black race in America. Not long ago, an English writer telephoned me from London asking questions. One was, 'What's your alma mater?' I told him, 'Books.'" So, Di, the work that you've done was not only an extension of kindness, it had impact. It did, in fact, alter the course of lives. That's why we're honoring you today. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the State Senate, offers you its official citation, and it reads, "Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Diana Clymer in recognition of your 50 years of passionate civic engagement in the interests of community institutions, local democracy, and restorative justice." Thank you, Di.
Thank you. And now Representative Tammy Govea will offer the state legislative citation to our honored citizen.
That's fine.
Okay. My apologies. We did not know that we were to extend a citation to you, but I will work on getting that. This is the pitfalls of having a brand new state rep in office, so my apologies to everybody. Just listening to the stories and listening to the letters that folks offered about all of the great work that you've done, Di, I am so incredibly impressed with the extent of the reach of your impact. I was at a meeting yesterday, and it was in Westwood, and we were talking about restorative justice and the fact that it started right here. And I'm a member of First Parish Church in Stowe and Acton, and I'm a member of a lot of groups in Acton, and we talk quite a bit about the Concord Prison Outreach Program. And so your reputation has preceded even the opportunity for me to have met you, and I'm incredibly grateful, and we're all incredibly grateful for all of the work that you've done to not only restore kindness and respect, but all of our humanity. It's not just the humanity of the lives of the people you have touched, but it's the lives of the people who are here in this room and who have been able to participate in the programs that you've really fostered. So thank you for that, and congratulations.
Di, would you like to come forward at this time?
Thank you so much. I am beyond grateful to be the recipient of this honor. Any recognition that comes from Concord is truly cherished. This is, as you all know, a very, very special community. It's been talked about in the past, and all of you are living it and realizing what it means to live in Concord. When we moved here 53 years ago, I was initially charmed by the town center and the beauty of Concord's landscape, then enthralled by its history, and over time I've been totally overwhelmed by the creative energy here. So many things begin here. And historically we know them, but every year something new happens in this town. When I tried to start with a group of people a spiritual learning center, I went to a town to put some paper together and so forth, and I said to the person, "Isn't this exciting? We have another new nonprofit organization forming." And they said, "Oh my goodness, we have at least 3 or 4 a year." It's also comforting to see how authentic people are in this town and how involved they are in so many of the activities. For a town this size, we have an unusual bounty of resources, such amazing assets. We have a renowned library, a wonderful hospital, yes, a prison that townspeople petitioned the legislature to ask to have it built here in the late 1800s. We have a national park, all kinds of historic, environmental, cultural, educational institutions, our motivated faith communities, our farms, our garden clubs. What an extraordinary level of care volunteers give to ensure that all of these things thrive. In the bounty of resources, I would include the many people who work here as shop owners, employees in Concord, and for our government. They respond to our needs, often taking added time of their own to help. For example, our former police chief, Len Weatherby, agreed to bring restorative justice to the police department. The model in other places has always been to put restorative justice within the court system and not within the police department. So for that reason, our restorative justice program that is now expanded is a unique program, and it is a part and essence of community policing that Len Weatherby embraced. John mentioned the neighborhood network, and I did bring the map. I found it recently in my basement, and I took it to Chief O'Connor just to tell him what it was about. He said he had heard something about it, but he didn't really know. So I filled him in, and he said that he would like to consider redoing something of this sort. It might be a little bit different. So if anybody has any interest in helping form a neighborhood network, we might do it again. As we all know in our busy lives, we don't stay connected with people right close to us in our neighborhoods. And I think that a lot of people, when we put it together, gained a great deal. And there's some neighborhoods now who still get together on a regular basis to do a particular event annually. Another person in the category, somebody who worked in town, is Dana McLean Greeley. I don't know if I would have had the passion for social justice if I hadn't been inspired by First Parish Minister Dana McLean Greeley, who spoke so fervently about social justice and marched beside Martin Luther King in Selma. I was grateful to have our beloved library director, Barbara Powell, help me in many situations, wrote mission statements with me, and did various things. And as was mentioned, I was grateful that the postmaster at the time that we had that anthrax scare. Do you remember the white substance that was coming in envelopes and landing on people's mailboxes? Well, it was clear that the front line for that activity was our postal service team. So when I asked if they would be willing to let me arrange for a thank you party for them, he said yes, even though it required more work on his part. The highlight of the event I will never forget when Anderson Photoshop came down and took a picture of all of the postal workers lined up on the front steps, and their biggest smile and their biggest thrill was that Doris Kearns Goodwin, their baseball fan, was right there in the middle. And I guess we can also thank the superintendent of the prison, because when I went in and asked what could a group of women, church women, do for the prison, he didn't turn me away. He had an assignment. So all of these people who work in town work along with us, and they're very generous. The fabric of this community is rich indeed, with a multiple of people who contribute to its well-being. It's been a gift to be a participant, and I hope I can continue to do so. Thank you for the support that so many of you here have given to this special town and to me by working on a myriad of projects and contributing financially too. Thank you.
In keeping with tradition, we would like to recognize all of our past honored citizens who are present today. Your efforts and contributions to our town have helped pave the way for all of us. I kindly invite all honored citizens to please stand. We'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge honored citizens who have passed away since last year's ceremony. Annabelle Shepard, Fan Cabot-Larner, and Marion Thornton. Please join me in honoring their memory with a moment of silence. Thank you. The Public Ceremonies and Celebrations Committee would also like to extend special gratitude to our 2018 honored citizen Jim Terry, the Concord Independent Battery, Concord Minutemen, Middlesex County 4-H Fife and Drum Corps, members of the Concord Scouts, and everyone here today for taking part in this event. Reverend Howard Dana will now give the benediction.
Will you please rise for the benediction? Let us go out into this beautiful day, in this beautiful town, in this beautiful world, inspired by the work of Di Clymer, but knowing that each person here has everything it takes to be an honored citizen, that what it takes is connection with those that you love. It takes concern for those who are in need and who are incarcerated or who need your help in some way. Go forth and know that the small acts of kindness that you do add up, and that year after year working on a good cause not only results in praise such as this, but even more in the helping of our fellow citizens. Go forth knowing that the work that you do is good and holy and right. Go in peace. Amen.
In case anyone did not sign the guest book in the hallway, please do so before you leave, and please stay to enjoy some refreshments right behind you. And congratulations, Di. Thank you.